Charitamrita class. Special welcome to His Grace Bhagavad Dharma Prabhu for visiting Radhadesh, and he will be giving the lectures for the coming 5 days. So we are extremely fortunate in Radhadesh to have so many swan-like devotees who appear here in Radhadesh to share their nectar with all the assembled devotees. Actually, in our tradition, we talk about many kinds of birds. And one of the birds that is linked to transcendence is the Hamsa, or the Paramahamsa. Dharma, Projita, Kaito Votra, Paramo Nimatsaranam Satam. Srimad Bhagavatam starts by saying that the topics discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam are meant for swan-like people. And the distinction is made in Bhagavatam in another verse spoken by Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva. The crow is mentioned. So you have swans and you have crows. And it's specifically mentioned because Srila Vyasadeva, we know that he compiled all the different Vedic scriptures, all the Puranas, the Upanishads, the 4 Vedas, the Mahabharata. So many different scriptures he provided for the liberation of all living entities. Jiva Nishtara Lagi Sutra Kaila Vyas. Caitanya Charitamrita says that all these Vedic scriptures are ultimately meant for the liberation of all living entities. Jivara Nishtara Lagi Sutra Kaila Vyas. So Srila Vyasadeva, he compiled all the Vedic literatures for the benefit of all human beings. And at the end, after compiling them, he felt dissatisfied. So he's compiling literatures, which is not so easy. It's like 100,000s of verses he compiled for the benefit of everyone. And usually when you do something for the benefit of others, you feel very satisfied, no? The more you focus on yourself, the more restless you become, the more greedy you become, the more frustrated you become. The more you do for others, the more peaceful you become. That's the art of giving. So Srila Vyasadeva, he gave the highest benefit, the highest benediction in the form of all the Vedic scriptures. And he felt dissatisfied. And as the duty of the spiritual master is that when the disciple is trying his very best to advance in spiritual life, but then when he gets obstacles on his path and he is very sincere, then spiritual master appears to assist him, to support him. And there was Narada Muni on the scene. And he was, to be honest, he was quite heavy. The first question that he asked to Srila Vyasadeva was, are you satisfied by, what was it? Anyone remembers? Are you satisfied by identifying yourself with the mind and the body? Srila Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of God. And he got chastised by Narada Muni. Now are you happy after compiling all the Vedic scriptures by identifying yourself with your mind and your body? Hare Krishna, that's something to swallow. But that's not all. Then he says, Nayat vachas titra padam hare yaso jagat pavitram prakranita karichit. He said, those words, Nayat vachas, vacha means to speak, or words. Nayat vachas chitra padam hare yaso jagat pavitram. Words that do not glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jagat pavitram. That Lord who is able, who is potent to purify the whole universe. Those words that do not describe him, the Supreme Lord. Tat vayasam tirtam. That's the word I was looking for. Tat vayasam tirtam. Tirtam means a holy place or a place of pilgrimage. Tat vayasam tirtam. A place of pilgrimage for crows. Not for swans. That's heavy, no? In other words, everything that you have written so far is basically speaking a place of pilgrimage for crows. Why? Because nayat vachas, because your words are not glorifying that person directly who is able to purify the whole universe. And he continues by then saying, but that literature, even falsely composed or with mistakes in it, that literature that does glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead correctly, will create a revolution in the heart of all those who take oral reception from it. So Vedic scriptures are perfectly composed, but it's a pilgrimage of cross if it's not directly linked to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That literature that is full of faults, but attempting to glorify the Supreme Lord, is creating a revolution in the heart of all those who read it. So that's strong instruction. In other words, not so subtly, quite intensely, Srila Vyasadeva gets corrected by his spiritual master, Narada Muni. Please write that scripture that directly glorifies the Supreme Lord, that directly glorifies the path of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because only that will benefit those who take oral reception from it. So there are crows, there are swans. The explanation of Srila Prabhupada is that a swan, when he is swimming in the waters in a lake, usually he's in a very clear lake, transparent lake with lotuses and beautiful scene. But then when you put some milk in the water, then apparently a swan has the ability to filter out the milk, drink the milk, and leave the water. So a Paramahamsa, a transcendental swan, is a transcendentalist who knows the art of filtering out the spiritual essence even amidst the material world. So why do I bring this up? Because, Vedic literature speaks about parrots, Sukha Mukha Tamrita Drava Samyutam. It speaks about swans, it speaks about crows. I feel that in the last 10 days, we only had the association of swan-like transcendental devotees who knew the art of speaking from their heart, full of realizations, full of insights, full of rasa, full of tattva. And it's a bit difficult, as Gopinath Acharya was mentioning yesterday, Gopinath Acharya Prabhu, that he felt like after hearing from Madhavananda Prabhu that he could only make a few footnotes. So my first thought, my realization sitting here after Gopinath Acharya Prabhu, Madhavananda Prabhu, Urmila Mataji, Sureshwar Prabhu, all these great advanced realized souls, then I feel a little bit like a duck, not like a swan or a parrot, but a duck who can just do some quack, quack, quack. But Srila Prabhupada also explains that as birds are flying in the sky, higher or lower, according to the capacity that they have, I think it's also okay that even when you don't fly so high, and this is not false humility, but just the reality, that if you are not so flying so high like myself, at least you can talk about that, At least it's above the earth. If you can fly, you can see everything a little bit more from distance, but maybe not as the previous speakers were doing, that they could really go deeper and deeper and deeper. So I apologize for being the speaker on Sunday after all these wonderful devotees speaking. So we are starting a new chapter, and before we read Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 1 till 4, we always glorify Panchatattva and the Lord. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Tvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So first, the first verse 1 is on the board, so please repeat. Sri Caitanya Prabhum Vande Yat Padasraya Viryataha Sangranacha Karavrata Agya Siddhanta Sanmanim. Sri Caitanya Prabhum Vande Yat Padasraya Viryataha Sangranacha Karavrata Agyat Siddhanta Sanmanim. Vande Prabhum Vande Sangrinach Akara Vrata Agyasidanta Sanmanim. Matatis, please. Sri Caitanya Prabhum Vande Sraya Veyataha Sangrinach Akara Vrata Agyasidanta Sanmanim. Sri Caitanya Prabhum Vande Yat Padasraya Veyataha Sangranacha Karavrata Agyasidanta Sanmanim. Sri Caitanya Prabhum Vande Yat Padasraya Veyataha Sangranacha Karavrata Agyasidanta Sanmanim. Thank you very much. Sri Caitanya Prabhum, to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vande, I offer my respectful obeisances. Yat, of whom? Pada Asraya, of the shelter of the lotus feet. Viryataha, from the power. Sangranati, collects. Akaravratat, from the multitude of minds in the form of scriptures. Agya, a fool. Siddhanta, of conclusion. Satmanim, the best jewels. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisance to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. By the potency of the shelter of his lotus feet, even a fool can collect the valuable jewels of conclusive truth from the minds of revealed scriptures. Isn't that beautiful? And it's also very relevant. Even a fool can collect the valuable jewels. Well, how is that possible? In Kali Yuga, we are all so fallen, disturbed, a-spiritual, so materialistic, so short of memory. So how can we understand the conclusive truths which are like valuable jewels that you can find in a mine? How is it that we can understand these very intricate tattvas in our condition? Well, Yat Padasraya Viryataha, if we take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the insights of the Vedic scriptures will be revealed into us in a very simple way. Even after being in the movement for a few days, you know about Brahman, you know about Paramatma, you know about Bhagavan, you know about the incarnations, you know about the difference between the spiritual and the material energy, about the difference between the mind, the intelligence, the 5 elements, the subtle elements, the gross elements, the 24 elements of the material world. It's amazing. Just in a few weeks being in contact with Krishna consciousness, we have like already a summary of the whole philosophy, just given by Srila Prabhupada, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Text 2. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. You want to sing together? Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Bhaktavrinda. Yes, glorify each other in this room. It's nice. Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Tritiya slokera artha kaila vivaran, chaturta slokera artha sunabhaktagan. I have given the purport of the 3rd verse. Now, O devotees, please listen to the meaning of the 4th with full attention. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya vitena kalo samarpaitum munatotvalarasam swabhakti sriyam hari purata pungaranjutim swadam kadamba swadipika sadaridaya kandare spuratuva sachinandana. This is, in fact, the Paribas verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Paribas means the king of all the verses in a particular scripture. We have discussed this a few times over the last few months, that the Paribas verse of Bhagavad Gita is Aham Savasya Prabhavo Mata Savam Pravartate. Krishna says, I'm the source of all material and all spiritual worlds. And a person who fully understands this will engage in devotional service. So it's the king of all verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes, when we hear other commentaries from previous acharyas, sometimes they also mention that the Manmana Bhava Bhakto is the Paribas verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which means that you should always think of God 24 hours a day, which is like the Abhideya Paribas verse of the Bhagavad Gita. The process of devotional service accumulates or culminates in remembering Krishna. If you do devotional service without remembering Krishna, then actually it's not really devotional service, because for whom are you doing it? If you do service for someone and you don't recognize that the person you do it for is, you just do something. Therefore Krishna says, Tasmat Saveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yuchacha. Well, executing your duties in this world, simultaneously you should always remember God. Tashmat. Tashmat is a word that we find in the Vedic scriptures a lot. Tashmat means therefore. It's a conclusion. After many, many verses, then a verse comes, Tashmat. Therefore, Sarveshu Kaleshu means therefore in all times. Mam Anusmara, remember me. Yujyacha, and he speaks to Arjuna who has to fight. So he says, while fighting, you remember me always. While engaging in your duties, your day-to-day life duties, you remember me constantly. So this is very important. So the Paribas verse of Bhagavad Gita is Aham Savasya Prabhavo. Paribas verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam we will discuss a little bit later. Paribas verse of the Brahma Samhita we will also discuss a little bit later. Paribas verse of Nectar of Devotion is Anukuyena Krishna nu silanamba. Nee, Anyabilasita sunyam. Jnana karmadi anavritam. You give up all other desires and you simply engage in devotional service to Krishna. No other desire than the desire to serve the Lord. This is the king of all verses in the Nectar of Devotion. So here, Anarpita Charim Chirat verse here in the Caitanya Charitamrita is the king of all verses in the Caitanya Charitamrita. That means that all other verses should be aligned with this specific verse. And the translation is beautiful. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachidevi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before. The most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. It's a very small, short purport. This is a quotation from the Vidakta Madhava 1.2, a drama compiled and edited by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this chapter is called The External Reasons of Lord Chaitanya's Appearance. And it's based on this specific verse, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has external reasons why he comes, and he has internal reasons why he comes. Now, it doesn't mean that this chapter explaining the external reasons why the Lord comes, that, oh, it's just external, it's not important. Let's go to the internal reasons, which is more esoteric and more confidential. So let's go to the next chapter, okay? Let's skip this chapter. It's external, Prabhu. But this is not the meaning of the external and internal. Actually, this chapter is explaining that the Lord is appearing to transform us. Like we have mentioned so many times, that all these activities that we are doing, hearing and chanting, remembering, doing service in the temple, doing service at home, doing pujas, there is only one reason why we do this, and that is to become gradually transformed. It's a transformational process. It has nothing to do with blind faith. Prajaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. Bhagavad Gita 9.2, Krishna says that this process is the highest process of anything, because it gives direct experience into the self. We learn from the Isopanishad that there are three kinds of evidences: Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. Evidence that comes from direct perception, evidence that comes from speculation, and evidence that comes by hearing from authorities. But actually there are many other kinds of evidences, and one very powerful evidence is Anubhav. And Anubhav means experience. You can discuss so many things with each other, or when you go on book distribution, you can, with your talking, you can try to convince somebody about the supremacy of this philosophy. But unless you experience something in your heart, something transformational, then it remains just mental speculation. So therefore it's so important to get this transformation. Now this chapter deals with the Lord's purpose of appearing in this world just to transform all of us. Transform us from bhaktas into bhaktas. Bhakta means enjoyer, and bhakta means devotee. It sounds almost similar, no? I'm a bhakta. Oh, you're a bhakta. No, I'm a bhakta. It's just almost the same, but it has a huge difference. When you're a bhakta, then you try to enjoy this material world by sense gratification. If you're a bhakta, you aspire to become a devotee of Krishna and make him the bhaktaram yakya tapasham, make him the enjoyer of all our activities and all our austerities. So this is transformational for us. Therefore, it's called the external reason why the Lord is appearing. He wants to transform us. And in the next chapter, we hear about Krishna's internal reasons why he comes. based on the Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Rashmat verse, where he talks about the internal reason why he comes, and that is the Lord wants to be transformed. That's amazing, no? The Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the source of everything. And he comes to become transformed. That's very secret. That is very confidential. Very briefly, we could say that when the Lord sees the happiness that the devotees are experiencing in serving him, if he sees the love in the eyes of his devotees for himself, he is curious. What are they experiencing? What are they seeing when they look at me? What is it that is so ecstatic in dealing with me? This is a very esoteric, high-level form of God consciousness, where we speak about the Lord being curious about the ecstatic feelings of his devotees in relationship to himself. And therefore, although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he comes in the mood of his supreme devotee, which is Radha, Radharani, Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam, Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Although he comes in the form of Krishna, his bodily complexion is golden, and his bhava, his mood towards, his mood is as a devotee. In order to understand what it means to be Radha. Therefore, Gauranga is Gaurangi. Another name for Srimati Radharani is Gaurangi. But Gaurangi becomes Gauranga. And that is the combination of Radha and Krishna combined. So this chapter is dealing with Krishna's external reasons in why he is coming, and he is showing his mercy to all living entities by becoming the Sankirtanaika Pitaro. Sankirtanaika Pitaro means he becomes the father or the initiator of the process of chanting the holy names of Krishna. Now, as this is the beginning of the chapter, I don't want to go deep into this verse, because the next speakers, they will do the mining into these beautiful slokas related to Lord Chaitanya's external reasons why he appears. But I would like to do a very brief summary of the first two chapters. Anyone remembers what the title is of the first chapter of the Caitanya Charitamrita? Yes, the title is The Spiritual Masters. And anyone remembers the first two words in that first chapter? That means the first two words that are spoken by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Caitanya Charitamrita. Vande Gurun. So therefore, the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you passed the test. That of it. You are the knower of the truth.
What's my price?
You will get the blessings of all the assembled devotees. Tattva-vid, the knower of the truth. So it's amazing. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he starts with Vande Gurun. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual masters. Plural. My spiritual masters. And in this chapter, it is described how necessary it is to take a spiritual master. Tashmat Gurum Prapaccheta Jigyasu Sreya Uttamam. The very beginning of spiritual life, mentioned in all the scriptures, is that you surrender to a spiritual master. Jigyasu Sreya Uttamam. And what do you do when you approach a spiritual master? Oh, my dear spiritual master, can you give me a new car? Or can you make me pass the test of my driving license exam? No, it says, Jigyasu Sreya Uttamam. Jigyasu means you become curious in front of the spiritual master. Curious in what? Sreya Uttamam. There is a difference between prayas and shreyas. Prayas means things that give immediate satisfaction, and Shreyas means that is giving me the ultimate satisfaction. So Shreya, Uttamam. Uttamam is also an interesting word. Uttamam is generally translated as supreme or the highest. So when we come in front of the spiritual master, we become inquisitive, we become curious to understand the highest ultimate benefit of life. Uttamam also means uttama. Tama means ignorance, darkness. It's another word for this material world. It's a dark world full of ignorance. So uttama means beyond ignorance. So my dear spiritual master, can you please explain me about matters that are beyond this dark material world? Can you enlighten me? And Srila Prabhupada, he quotes from the Mundaka Upanishad again and again this verse, Tat Vigyanartam Sa Gurum Eva Abhigachat. Abhigachat is like, there is no way around. You must. What you must do? Tat Vigyanartam Sa Gurum. You have to inquire by approaching a spiritual master. This is not optional. In other words, go to a spiritual master and surrender. And it is explained that there are 4 spiritual masters, therefore it's plural. Vande Gurun. We have the Chaitya Guru, is the Guru in our heart. I have my own Guru. Oh, who is your Guru? He's in my heart. It's the Paramatma, it's the Chaitya Guru. I don't need another Guru because the Lord is in my heart, so I listen to the Lord. Yes, that's very nice. It's very nice. And we were discussing in the lecture of Bhakta Christian, who was speaking about Sarvadharman Parityajya verse, that how can we make a distinction between what the Lord tries to tell you and what your mind tries to tell you. Sometimes you think that the mind is the Lord, and then we think, wonderful instruction, and then we get into deep trouble because the mind is our worst enemy if it's not controlled. Therefore, jitatmana prasantasya paramatma samahitaha. Shitoshna sukadukeshu tatamana pamanayo. Do you want to know if you can listen to the Lord, yes or no? You want to know how? How many of you would like to listen to the Lord in the heart? Yes? Everyone? It would be nice to have a personal conversation every day. Hey, my Lord, are you awake? Yes, I'm awake. Okay, tell me, what should I do now? You do this. Okay, I'm going for it. Like, what can I do now? Wonderful conversation. But 6th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 7th verse, says, Jitatmana prashantasya. You have to, first requirement is you have to, it's just very simple. It's just, if you listen carefully, you can do it, you can talk to the Lord. You just control the mind and your senses. That's it. End of class. Jita means to conquer. Atmana. Atmana can mean, according to your realization, Atma can mean the mind, the body, can even mean the intelligence. So, Jita Atmana, you conquer your mind, you conquer your senses. That means your mind is completely peaceful, transparent, quiet, completely in the mode of goodness. And what is the proof? How do I know that I conquered my mind? Prasantasya. Well, Santa, Shanti means you are peaceful. Prasantasya, you're completely peaceful all the time. Shitoshna, Sukha, Dukeshu. So what is another proof that you are in that level, on that state of mind? Shitoshna, Sukha, Dukeshu. It's the same. Happiness comes. Material happiness comes, I'm not happy. Material distress comes, I'm not distressed. I'm equipoised. Because my focus is not in the material world. Distress can make me happy and happiness can make me distressed, so I don't bother with this shitoshna, this summer and winter experiences. Oh, end of the winter, I wish it was summer. Oh, it's so hot, I wish it was winter. So many times. So Sitoshna Sukha Dukeshu, you're completely equipoised. And then Tatamana Pamanayo, even more difficult. I'm completely equipoised in praise or despise, in criticism or glorification. Somebody glorifies you, encourages you, I'm so happy. Somebody says something that is hitting me deeply in my heart, oh, that is my enemy. No. Completely equipoised. So, how many of you passed this criteria? Just a few tests. Conquering your mind, conquering your senses, equipoised in happiness and distress, like summer and winter are coming and going. And no problem if somebody criticizes me, no problem if somebody glorifies me. I'm completely happy in all circumstances. How many? No, I cannot raise my hand. Therefore, Chaitya Guru might not be so relevant, the Paramatma in the heart, because the mind cries and shouts louder than the Paramatma in the heart. And therefore we need the other three gurus. Pata Pradarshika Guru, the person who gave you for the first time an insight in the process of devotional service and the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We all have our Pata Pradarshika Guru. And we should be very grateful. I know who's my Pata Pradarshika Guru. It was my very best friend. I joined with him together. Stoka Krishna Prabhu, he knows. Bhakta Willem. When I joined, Stoka Krishna was already a senior devotee. He was already 1 year in the movement. So a lot of respect for the seniors at that time. So he was my Pata Pradarshika Guru. He gave me different mindset. And then you get your Shiksha Guru, the person who really instructs you in spiritual life. I also know that was, for me, it was Jayagopal Prabhu. He was my Bhakta leader, he was my temple president, he taught me so many wonderful things. So normally Shiksha Guru becomes Diksha Guru. You are initiating spiritual master, but he was not allowed to give Diksha. So therefore, you take another Diksha Guru as you are initiating spiritual master. So these are 4 kinds of spiritual masters. The Lord in the heart, the one who shows you the path for the first time, the instructing spiritual master, and the initiating spiritual master. And approaching those is essential in spiritual life, and therefore the whole first chapter of the Caitanya Charitamrita is dedicated to the spiritual masters. And then in the second chapter, we learn about Tattva, the absolute truth. Anyone remembers what is the chapter name of the second chapter? No, the Caitanya Charitamrita second chapter. Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This chapter, the previous chapter, has 110 verses. Out of the 110 verses, there are only 4 or 5 verses that mention Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's amazing. It's all about Krishna. It starts actually with defining what is the absolute truth. The very famous verse, Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam attvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sapjate. In this chapter, this verse is mentioned 2 times. What is tattva? What is the truth? What is the absolute truth? Some transcendentalists, they see the absolute truth as Brahman, as the all-pervading energy emanating from the Lord, and they focus very much on Brahman. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes the devotees in this movement, they cannot hear the name Brahman. Oh, Brahman, ugh, Brahman, it's impersonalists, the Mayavadis. But actually, isn't it wonderful that we are bathing in the energy of the Lord? Everything what is around us is a transformation of the Lord's personal energy. Therefore, somebody who sees that everything is energy of the Lord will use that energy back in the service of the Lord. And therefore, nothing is Maya. Nothing is illusion, because everything comes from Krishna. The only thing that we need to do is to reconnect it, like the microphone. We can sing rock and roll. My baby left me and now I'm crying. Or we can speak Krishna Katha, Tattva, use the microphone for purifying the atmosphere and talking about Krishna. So everything can be connected to Krishna. And those transcendentalists that are focusing on Brahman are great, great personalities. It's mentioned that the Munaya Vastavashana, those munis who walk around naked, practicing severe austerities, raising their semen up to their, head, the brahmacharis, those who are celibate, engaged in severe austerities, they go to Brahmaloka. They attain impersonal liberation. So that's wonderful. They focus on the equality of all living entities. They focus on detachment. They focus on liberation. It's all wonderful. Therefore, they are called transcendentalists. It's just like when you go out and you see sunlight. How many of you would say, oh no sunlight, it's impersonal? No, it's one aspect of the sun. You have the sun rays, you have the sun planet, and then you have the sun gods. All three of them form together the sun. And then you have those who focus on the Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, the Chaitya Guru, who is Kavim Puranam Anusasitaram, who is the oldest philosopher, and the Lord is the oldest philosopher, Kavim Puranam Anusasitaram. He's the controller, he is the maintainer, he is luminous like thousands of suns, and he's there in our heart. He's guiding us, he's making us forget, he is making us remember, he is observing us, he's witnessing us, he is allotting karma to us. He's doing so many things. He's so relevant in our life. So Paramatma is part of the absolute truth. And then Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of Paramatma, who is the source of Brahman. And then this chapter, the second chapter, is saying, okay, we understand that Bhagavan is the ultimate absolute truth. But who is Bhagavan? There are so many Bhagavans. Even Narada Muni is called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means somebody who possesses opulences. Yeah? So everybody possesses opulences to a certain extent. But this Paribhas verse, this king of all verses of the Bhagavatam says, Etecham sakala pumsam, Krishnastu Bhagavan swayam. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. He is the source of all Bhagavans. And therefore he is Bhagavan Swayam. So practically speaking, the whole Caitanya Charitamrita chapter 2 speaks about Krishna being the source of everything. He is the source of all living entities. He is the source of all energies. He is the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction. He is the source of the demigods. He is the source of the sages. He is the source of all opulences. Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, speaks about the opulences of the Lord. And Krishna, he gives 80 different opulences, how you can see him in this world. And then he says, but actually just one spark of myself pervades this entire universe with all the opulences. So don't bother getting into the opulences so much. Still, it was relevant because in the 11th chapter, Krishna shows his universal form, to prove that all the opulences where he is the source of are actually linked to him. So he shows the universal form. Actually, he shows the universal form 5 times. Do you know that? He showed the universal form when he was a baby lying on the lap of Mother Yasoda and he was yawning. And Mother Yasoda looked into his mouth and said, what? The whole universe is there in the mouth of my baby. And then he showed the universal form when Balaram and the Gopas accused him for eating clay. Mother Yasoda, Krishna ate clay. He ate clay. And Krishna said, no, Mother, I didn't eat clay. Yes, he ate clay. He is now not only eating clay, he is also lying. And then Mother says, please come. Now you open your mouth. And Krishna was thinking, oh, you want to see some clay? Okay, I'll show you some clay. I'll show you the whole universe full of clay. And then when Krishna went on the peace mission to try to persuade Duryodhana for not fighting, for giving at least a few villages to the 5 Pandavas. Then he went there, and it's mentioned that he showed a partial manifestation of the universal form. And did it work? Duryodhana, was he impressed? Oh yeah, it's nice mystical power, but no. Your peace mission will fail. So Krishna went back. There was no peace. And then, of course, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, while speaking Bhagavad Gita, he showed the universal form. And then another time he showed the universal form. When the battle was over and he stayed for some time with the Pandavas, then he headed back to Dwarka. And it's mentioned that he met on the way back to Dwarka, he met Uttanka Maharaj. And Uttanka Maharaj was his friend from the past. So they were so happy to meet each other, and they embraced, and they were talking, and one of the topics became like, what did you do? Well, yeah, I was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only 640 million soldiers were killed, but for the rest was successful, Krishna said. And then Uttanka said, but how is it possible that you allowed this to happen, this slaughtering? Krishna tried to argue a little bit. And Uttanka, he became more and more upset. He said, this is just ridiculous. Why didn't you do something proactive and avoid this whole slaughtering? And he became so upset that he said, I will curse you with mantras. Uttanka said to Krishna, I will curse you with mantras. And Krishna says, you can try, but it will have no effect. Why it has no effect? Because I'm Yogeshwar. I'm the master of all mystic powers, so you can do whatever you like, but I will absorb it. It's no problem. And then Uttanka said, now you prove it. And then Krishna showed again his universal form to Uttanka. So 5 times he showed. In other words, Krishna is not only speaking that he is the source of everything, but he is showing that he is the source of everything. And the reason why it's so important, although we are singing Iti drik swalila birananda konde swagosham nimajantam akyapayantam, this verse that we sing during Damodar Ashtakam, is that these wonderful pastimes of Bala Gopal in Vrindavan, it's drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy, and it shows to those devotees who are interested in the opulences of the Lord, that the Lord will not be captured by those devotees who are focusing on Aishvaya, who are focusing on the opulences. But that doesn't mean that we should not try to make Krishna as big as possible. To read Vedic scriptures, to read Bhagavad Gita, means to make Krishna bigger and more prominent in our lives. We have discussed that in one of the previous lectures. To hear about Krishna being the source of everything, and how he is the smaller of the smallest and the greatest of the great, and how he is in everything, outside everything, means you make God more and more prominent in your own mind, in your own consciousness. And when you allow Krishna to enter your consciousness more and more, then Krishna will allow you to enter his world at the end of this life. So the more you allow Krishna in this life, the more we will be allowed to enter into Krishna's life. This makes sense? So become more and more absorbed in the greatness of the Lord, and it takes over our lives. I can tell you, when I started Krishna consciousness, I was thinking, oh, it's nice, just add a little Hare Krishna. And then before I knew it, I was shaven up, sikha, tilak, dhoti, follow 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, and the whole day activities in relationship to Krishna. In a few days. So it is the purpose of studying and hearing about Krishna together. The whole purpose is to make Krishna more and more prominent in our lives, so that there is no more space for anything else. And then you become so absorbed in Krishna, and Krishna becomes absorbed in us, because this is ye yata mam prapachyante tam sataiva bhajamiham. the way we approach Krishna, he approaches us, and we get a very loving relationship between the Lord and ourselves. And that is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he simply gave this beautiful mantra that we chant with our heart, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And just by doing this, Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan, we not only get knowledge about Tattva, about the absolute truth, but we get Prema Pal, we get the fruit of love of Godhead. It's not just the knowledge and the Tattva, it is the love that emanates from the heart when we hear more and more about Krishna and become more and more close to our heart. Then Prempal, the fruit of love of Godhead, is available because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he freely distributed this love of Godhead in the form of the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If you want, you can have breakfast. If you want to ask one or two questions for those who want to stay, then we can churn a little bit more.
Where is the pastime of Uttanka Maharaj told?
It's in the Mahabharata. The question is, where is the story of Uttanka Maharaj given? It's in the Mahabharata, I think in the Bhishma Parva. I can look it up for you, but it's in the Mahabharata. That's enough. Yes, it's actually it's mentioned that the Lord is showing his universal form 7 times. 5 times as Krishna, 1 time as Vamanadev towards Bali Maharaj. He also shows the universal form. And also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Srivasangam, he was also showing the universal form to all those who were present there. So 7 universal forms that we are knowing, that we are aware of. You have a question? Please. Is there a microphone or is it not working?
Thank you. So you said that in form of Yogeshwar, he told his friend that you try any mantra and you cannot curse me. But then, how did he get cursed by Gandhari when she was in pain and she said, you did not stop the war and your clan will get destroyed as well? So he was still Yogeshwar, I think.
Yes, because he is also Rasovaisha. Rasovaisam is a term for the absolute truth, is where the Lord is the reservoir of all rasas, relationships. In other words, his relationship with Gandhari and his relationship with Uttanka, according to time, place and circumstances, he interacted in a different way. So in other words, with Uttanka, he had this joking argument, and Uttanka became very upset and he wanted to curse Krishna, and Krishna wanted to show him that he is not just dealing with a friend, but he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore he found it relevant to show the universal form to his friend Uttanka. Whereas in the case of Gandhari, he took a humble position and he just accepted the curse without, it doesn't affect him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but just for the sake of Leela, for the sake of rasa, he just accepted it. Okay, therefore he's called Rasovaisa. He's the fountainhead of all different kinds of rasas. He's dealing with you in a different way as that he's dealing with me, because we have a unique relationship with the Lord individually. Okay, so therefore it's time, place and circumstances. Gopinath Prabhu?
I hope it's not too technical, but yeah, I still sometimes struggle to understand how the Lord mercies works for us, because in the verse today is mentioned that as Lord Chaitanya, he is given something no other incarnation has ever given before, and it specifically speaks in this context of the highest type of devotional service, or the most intimate conjugal love. So yeah, I have 2-3 aspects to the question. One is, yeah, it's also mentioned that the process Lord Chaitanya has given has never been that easy with the chanting of the holy name. So, in other ages it's not available so easily, it's there, but only now through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu it's available for everyone and anyone. But then the other aspect is also the aspect of conjugal love, which seemingly is also there. We hear it in Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's not given like that as available to everyone in such a clear way as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when we understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only appears once in a day of Brahma, which if I'm correct, including his night, is 8,400,000,000 years, then and that we also hear that about for 10,000 years Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is basically really available like it is, then how do we understand that this is the Lord's mercy, but then in all other times, which is basically almost most of the time, it's 0.0 something, it's the mercy is not available. So I don't know, it seems, very nice for those who are here in this period, but in the rest of the periods, it seems, sorry, but you're missing out. And then just the other part, I don't know if you can relate an answer to that, but then it seems that I don't understand if it's part of your destiny because you have an internal desire for the highest, or it's just the Lord's causeless mercy that if you're supposed to get this and it's not available here, then you must appear in a place where the Lord is there as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how does that all work? Is it just His mercy, or is it really because you have that desire for the highest type of love?
I would first like to offer Bhagavad Dharma Prabhu the chance to react on this, because he is our honorable guest, and from tomorrow onwards he will enlighten us with 5 classes. So if you would like to give your insight on this, I would be very grateful.
Can you repeat the first question?
So basically, try to summarize it. So the Lord manifests His mercy as Lord Chaitanya in 2 ways. One, He gives the easiest process, but it seems to be only really available for everyone in a very short period, in sense of the time of creation, and also in terms of the possibility of knowing deeply the relationship that one can have with Krishna and conjugal love, that this type of rasa, this type of relationship is also not really given, and the glories of that is not really spread. So how does that work, that we only can get this in this short period? It seems that everyone else is very unfortunate the rest of the time.
Hare Krishna. It's far beyond my understanding. Yes, as you mentioned that Lord Chaitanya came only once in a day of Brahma, also Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma. It's extremely rare opportunity to be in contact with the highest form of the Lord. And as explained everywhere in Shastra, it's Lord's causeless mercy. So there is no outer cause for Lord to reveal these pastimes, and especially to guide conditioned living entities to embrace this path to achieve the highest possible position in the spiritual world. Yes. So actually, as Jiva Goswami explains, chanting of the holy names is available at all times, and it is as potent as in Kali Yuga. But the problem is that these people in other ages are far more competent than people in Kali Yuga. So they don't have the highest regard for chanting the holy names, because it seems to them to be too easy process. So they engage in much more difficult processes because they believe that these processes must be more powerful, and so their consciousness is some kind not respectful enough for the holy name. So they are not blessed with this complete power of the holy name. Although we know the statements from Shastra that many, they do understand the potency of the holy name. For example, even Shukracharya explained at the sacrifice of Bali, mantratas tantratas shidram, that everything that is not done properly is rectified by the chanting of the holy name. So we can just be extremely grateful that we have this opportunity and take it extremely serious if we want our own benefit. Hare Krishna.
Just to end, I would like to add maybe 1 minute and then we take breakfast. Is that okay? Because it's getting late. So one thing is that every yuga, in every kalpa, there are processes available to attain self-realization and to attain also Goloka Vrindavan. It's not just in this Kali Yuga. It's just made more easy, more available, more complete, the whole picture. And it's mentioned that those who become attracted to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, usually they are already in a mood or in a swarup, in a relationship with the Lord that is, how you say, that is suitable for this Ujjvala Ras, this Madhurya Ras. And in Goloka Vrindavan, although the highest of all are the gopis and Radharani is the highest, but all other rasas are also present in Goloka Vrindavan, assisting the Madhurya Ras devotees. So, and because they are assisting, they also experience the same excitement as those who are in Madhurya Ras. So even if you, in your constitutional position in the spiritual world, are not directly in Madhurya Ras with Krishna, but in another Ras, still, you know, they are supporting or assisting in that mood of conjugal love. And the amazing thing in this yuga is that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not a Sakyavesha avatar or any avatar, but he is Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir. He is a combination of Radha and Krishna himself in one form, and that is very rare, and therefore he can very easily give the highest to the lowest in the most simple way. That is actually the definition of mercy, is you give the highest to the lowest in the most simple way. That's the definition of mercy. So we can think about why, but I think, as Prabhu was saying, it's causeless mercy, and somehow or other we are having this opportunity. Are we realizing that we have this opportunity? We have all the tools to make it happen. Yeah? But I'm so unfortunate. I have no taste. So that is the whole thing. Let's try together by inviting all the great devotees to Radhadesh to speak. Let's try to hear and hear and hear, because by hearing, you'll develop the desire to go back to Godhead. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, he says, the urge to hear is the first qualification of a devotee who wants to go back to Godhead, is to develop the urge to hear. So that is what we are doing, is we try to hear, try to chant together in order to develop that desire to join the Lord in the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, breakfast prasadam ki jai. Go Premanande!